Hi there, Beauty Talk Illustrated friends. This is Ida Walker, and I am delighted to welcome with us today Holly Wagner, who is one of the dynamic speakers featured at the Women of Faith Believe God Can Do Anything conference tour. Let me tell you all just a little about Holly before we get started. Holly and her husband Philip co-pastor the Oasis Church in Los Angeles, California. They are pastors of a growing multicultural, multi-generational church where you just might recognize the names of a few of their members, like Sherry Shepherd of The View and award-winning actress Viola Davis. Thank you, Holly, for making us a part of your busy schedule to spend some time with Beauty Talk Illustrated magazine. Holly, you are, as my grandmother would say, a busy little bee wearing many hats. You are a wife, mother, pastor, teacher, author, speaker, and what I can personally connect with, a breast cancer survivor. But the question today is, how do you manage to keep all the balls in the air at one time?
Well, that's every woman's question, isn't it?
Yes.
I think that, women in general, and certainly not just me, but we all are doing a lot. And you know what? There's no plates that I'm spinning that God didn't actually ask me to spin. So I just think that as we grow in God and continue to increase our capacity, He's asking us to do that. You know, He rewarded the 2-talent person for making it 4 talents and the 5 talents for making it 10. And so I just think that's my responsibility to grow on the inside so that I can actually handle more. And again, I'm not spinning plates I'm not supposed to, so sometimes people try to start things that isn't theirs to do, and that's where they get in trouble. But I've been graced by God to do what it is I'm doing. And when you're walking in that grace, then there's peace, and certainly I have a full life, and I love that. But I'm graced to do it. And so there's an ease that comes with it simply because I'm walking in, His grace to do it. I've, raising children, leading the church, speaking, writing, all of that. It's just sort of what I've been entrusted with at this moment in history.
Great. Now, wouldn't you say that it becomes natural and organic when God has provided you with the talents, which He has provided all of us with gifts that we need?
Yes, I think the problem with women in particular, sometimes we look at what somebody else has and what they're doing, and we want that, and then we might strive for that, and it's just, I'm not so sure that perhaps God's given that to them. So we just have to be very careful to walk in, or there's an illustration I often use. It's like in the Olympics, we have each been given a lane to run in. And, in the Olympics, if you step in the wrong lane, you're disqualified. And so for us, I think God's given us gifts and talents to run in our lane. And my job is to cheer everybody else on running in their lanes, but not to get in their lane.
Yes.
And I think sometimes we get so busy trying to get in somebody's lane, or we're jealous for what they have. And really, that just creates stress and tension. And when everything I need and every person I'm supposed to reach is in my lane. So just focus on what He's given me to do and do it to the best of my ability.
Great. Now, with so many women conferences on the circuit today, what makes the Women of Faith conference the perfect fit for you?
What's great actually about Women of Faith is that each is just the different speakers that are on the platform, the different styles, and so it's an interesting mix of the different aspects of the body, and there's, creative elements. Just the finale is divine. So people need to make sure they hang out all the way through the finale. And so there's some real, just God-breathed moments. And the music is obviously amazing here in Orlando. CeCe Winans, for Pete's sake, she's
yes, I love
who can
her.
sing like that girl?
That's right. Oh, so anointed.
Oh my gosh! And she's, she has just the purest heart. Let me just say, the more I get to know her, the more I love her. And then Third Day is here, so great music elements to it, and then worship. There's some real, the worship team is awesome. So there's some real God-breathed moments. And then there's some random, fun, nonsense moments. And I think the Holy Spirit is good with all of that.
Oh,
and it's such a great environment, really, for women together, and not just hear the word and get instructions and maybe encouragement for whatever battle they're facing. Because let's face it, we're all facing different battles. But so we're going to get instruction and encouragement, but we're going to have a good time. And I think sometimes we just need to take basically a 24-hour break. So that's what's happening. Women are coming 24-hour break and just getting fueled up and fired up, and they won't leave the same. So it's a pretty exciting time.
So they should expect a real treat this weekend.
Absolutely. This is the Hot Fudge Sunday of weekends.
Great. Okay, when people look at women of faith, oftentimes they see a woman who seems to have it all together, not realizing we are pros at times at masking our problems. What spiritual advice would you give a woman who may struggle with reaching the life God intended for her?
Well, first of all, let me just say what you're going to hear this weekend is women from women on the platform from Sheila Walsh and me and Lisa Harper, and we're going to tell our stuff so that you will, within 15 minutes, realize we don't have it all together, and we're not perfect, and we're on the journey just like everybody else is. So I think that's what you'll hear from the platform is we're all in this together, and together we're going to believe God can do anything, and we are all, navigating our own storms. So there is no perfect people, and in fact, perfect people are just not allowed in the building. And people will just understand we're all in this together, and we all have our stories. And God might have entrusted me with a microphone to tell mine and share my journey, and just some thoughts on overcoming. But it doesn't make me, certainly doesn't make me perfect.
Oh, great! Yeah, as my pastor says, he does not allow perfect people in his church.
That's it. I'm with him.
Okay. We know you use humor to share God's word and as a form of encouragement for others. Did you also find yourself using humor as a coping mechanism to keep yourself uplifted during your journey with breast cancer?
Oh, yeah. Listen, any time you can laugh is a good time. And for me, just even when I teach the word, I would just try to use humorous illustrations, or because sometimes when people are laughing, then their spirits open, and then the truth can actually get in quicker. Yes. And then for me, when I was navigating breast cancer, the Bible tells us that we're supposed to, that the joy of the Lord is our strength, and that James tells us that, consider it joy when you're in the midst of trials. And joy isn't a casual, happy-clappy kind of thing. Joy is the strength. Joy is the steel rod that holds you up. And so for me, in the middle of that battle, or even in the middle of some more recent battles, my decision is to choose joy. And so oftentimes that starts with finding a place to laugh, finding something that's humorous, and then it becomes a decision. Joy is an approach to life, not a reaction to it.
Yes, you choose it. You choose to do it.
Yep.
Great. Okay, we're going to shift gears just for a moment and talk about several inspiring books you have written for women, particularly the God Chicks series. How did the name come about, and what is the inspiration behind it?
Probably about 16 or 17 years ago, I was reading Titus chapter 2, once again, as you do, read through the Bible, and all of a sudden it jumped off the page to me. And this particular chapter, it said something, my paraphrase is, older woman, your job is the younger woman. Mm-hmm. And I realized that I had a job to do, that my audience, according to that scripture, was younger women. And so it's funny, when God said to me, or when I was reading that, I felt like, well, great, when I get to be 106, I'll be the old woman, and then I'll help all those young women. And I just felt like God said to me, is there anybody younger than you on the earth? And of course there is. He said, well, then she's yours. And so I had this responsibility to communicate in a way, write books in a way, articulate in a way, do the marketing in a way that would draw a younger woman in. And so that changed how I did everything. So really from that is where God Chicks was birthed. And it was just, we had a number of conversations just about, playful conversations. And then ultimately that became the name, God Chicks. And just, women's ministry just sounded old to that 21-year-old, and she wasn't going to come. Mm-hmm. That college girl is not going to come. And so we had to, for me, I had to kind of tweak the name a little bit to bring her in. And so my audience is women in their 20s and 30s, and I mean obviously 40s too, because especially now navigating the breast cancer, and so it's it's younger women and generational women. I mean just generations of women. Okay. And I host a conference in California, God Chicks, and you'll get the 15-year-old in there with her mother who will bring her mother. So, nice. Generations in one room, and I think that's how it should be. I think, so for me, my job was to create an environment and to write books in a way and articulate in a way where the younger woman is celebrated and she's surrounded by the wisdom of the older. And so to the best of my ability, that's what I'm trying to do.
Oh, great, great. And the last question we have for you. How would you like for the fabulous God Chick women attending the conference, what would you like for them to carry home with them?
A couple of things. I want every woman that walks, here into this conference, I want them to understand that they are the love beyond measure daughter of a king. Understand their worth and their value. Society, in so many ways, tries to diminish and tear down our own sense of worth. And so I want every woman to understand they are the love beyond measure daughter of a king. And second, I want them to understand that they have been put on the planet for such a time as this. And that, yes, there is absolute pain and suffering and heartache and famine and disease all over the earth, but God has trusted us with this moment in history, and He wants us to be a part of the solution. So we come into conferences like Women of Faith, and we get fired up, but it's so that we can go back and make a difference in our home, in our churches, and in our community.
Wonderful. Great. Well, thank you, Holly, for being our special guest today. We really appreciate you for taking time to be with us today. And I just thank you so much. And I'm sure a lot of women are looking forward to the Women of Faith conference.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the conversation.